You've been lied to. Weakness isn't who you are. It's just a habit you've let control you. Listen to this audiobook, and you'll learn how to destroy that weakness, take back your power, and dominate your life. The Unstoppable Mind. Audiobook. Introduction. This audiobook is not here to make you feel good. It's here to make you strong. Right now, whether you realize it or not, you are at war. Not with the world, not with your circumstances, but with the part of you that clings to comfort, hesitation, and fear. That voice in your head that tells you later or I'm not ready is your greatest enemy, and for too long, you've let it win. But that ends today. This audiobook is about tearing down every mental barrier that has held you back, exposing the lies you've been telling yourself, and forging a mindset so unshakable that nothing, not doubt, not pain, not failure, will ever stop you again. Weakness is not something you're born with. It's something you've been conditioned into, and just as it was built, it can be destroyed. In the audiobook ahead, you'll learn how to recognize and eliminate the habits, excuses, and self-imposed limitations that have kept you small. You will learn how to face discomfort, dominate fear, and cultivate the kind of unbreakable discipline that separates the weak from the unstoppable. If you are looking for a way to feel better without doing the work, put this audiobook down now. But if you are ready to step into your true potential, embrace the fight, and finally take control of your mind, then let's begin. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Weakness. Every morning you wake up to a battle. Not against the world, but against that voice inside your head that whispers, just 5 more minutes, or maybe tomorrow. That voice isn't your friend. It's the accumulated weight of every time you've chosen comfort over growth, safety over possibility. You were never born with this hesitation. Watch a baby learning to walk. They fall, they get up, they fall again, and not once do they think about giving up. That raw, unstoppable drive is still inside you, buried beneath years of learned helplessness and false limitations. Think about the last time you faced a challenge. Did you step forward, or did you step back? Did you embrace the opportunity, or did you find a reason, an excuse to avoid it? That moment of choice, that split second between challenge and response, is where weakness takes root. But here's the truth that will change everything. Weakness isn't a trait. It's a training ground. The greatest deception you've ever fallen for is the belief that strength is something you're born with, that some people are naturally resilient while others are destined to remain fragile. This lie has become the comfortable excuse that keeps you trapped in mediocrity, preventing you from reaching for what you truly want in life. Take Thomas Edison's journey to creating the light bulb. Each failed attempt, and there were over 1,000 of them, could have been seen as proof of weakness. Instead, Edison famously said, "I have not failed 1,000 times. I have successfully discovered 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb." This wasn't just positive thinking. It was a fundamental understanding that weakness is nothing more than a perspective, a learned response to challenge that can be unlearned just as deliberately. The transformation from weakness to strength isn't about finding some hidden reservoir of power. It's about systematically dismantling the habits of hesitation you've built over years. Every time you've backed away from a challenge, every time you've chosen the easy path, you've reinforced these patterns. But just as these patterns were built, they can be torn down. Your path to destroying weakness begins with recognition. Those moments when your heart races before speaking up in a meeting, when you find yourself scrolling through your phone instead of working on your goals, when you let opportunities pass because the timing isn't right. These are not signs of inherent weakness. They are decision points, chances to choose differently. David, a startup founder in Chicago, spent years believing he was just naturally bad at public speaking. Every pitch meeting filled him with dread. Every presentation became an exercise in survival rather than excellence. But instead of accepting this self-imposed limitation, he made a radical decision. He would speak up in every single meeting, regardless of how his voice shook or his palms sweat. The first few weeks were brutal. He stumbled over words, faced blank stares, and went home feeling exhausted. But he kept showing up, kept speaking up. 6 months later, his team couldn't believe he was the same person who used to hide in the back of the room. His voice hadn't magically changed. His relationship with fear had. This isn't about positive thinking or empty affirmations. This is about action. Every time you choose discomfort over comfort, growth over safety, action over hesitation, you're not just building strength. You're destroying weakness at its root. The process is simple, but it requires absolute honesty with yourself. Your challenge is this. Identify one area of your life where you've been hiding behind the label of, "I'm just not good at this," or "This isn't my strength." Today, not tomorrow, not next week, you will take one decisive action that directly confronts this self-imposed limitation. It doesn't matter how small the action is. What matters is that you break the pattern of avoidance. Write down your action before you close this chapter and commit to completing it within the next 24 hours. This is where your transformation begins. Chapter 2. The Comfort Trap. If you had to choose between easy and difficult, you'd pick easy. That's human nature. But what if I told you that easy is killing you? Every time you choose the comfortable path, you sacrifice growth. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce your own limitations. Comfort isn't just harmless relaxation. It's a slow, silent poison that numbs your potential. And if you don't learn to reject it, it will bury you alive. Your body and mind crave comfort like an addiction. It's not your fault. We're biologically wired to conserve energy and avoid pain. But in today's world, this ancient survival mechanism has become a trap. The same instinct that once kept our ancestors alive now keeps you stuck, mediocre, and far below your potential. Think about your morning routine. How many times have you hit the snooze button this week? Each time you chose those extra minutes of comfort, you weren't just delaying your day. You were programming yourself to choose weakness. Every small surrender to comfort adds up, creating a pattern of avoidance that becomes harder to break with each passing day. Comfort is seductive because it feels good in the moment. It's the warm bed in the morning, the extra slice of pizza, the "I'll do it tomorrow" excuse. It's a habit that weakens you, not because comfort itself is evil, but because staying comfortable means avoiding challenge, and without challenge, there is no growth. Observe Malala Yousafzai's journey. At just 15 years old, she faced a choice that most of us can't even imagine. Living in Pakistan's Swat Valley under Taliban rule, she was given every reason to stay silent and safe. The comfortable choice would have been to stop advocating for girls' education, to blend in, to avoid making waves. Instead, she chose to speak out, knowing the dangers she faced. Even after surviving an assassination attempt where she was shot in the head, Malala didn't retreat into comfort. She used her recovery period to strengthen her resolve, eventually becoming the youngest Nobel Prize laureate in history. Her strength didn't emerge from comfort. It was forged in the crucible of adversity, in her willingness to embrace discomfort for a greater purpose. This isn't about torturing yourself or seeking pain for pain's sake. It's about understanding that real growth happens at the edge of your comfort zone, where challenge meets capability. Every time you choose the harder path, you're not just building strength, you're destroying the weakness that comfort creates. Most people wait until discomfort is forced upon them, by failure, by crisis, by regret. But you don't have to wait. You can train yourself to embrace discomfort before life makes the choice for you. Start small. Take cold showers. Wake up earlier. Put in extra effort when no one is watching. These aren't just physical challenges. They're mental training grounds where you learn to override your comfort-seeking instincts. Lucas, an amateur boxer in Detroit, understood this principle all too well. For months, he avoided sparring because he hated getting hit. Every time he stepped into the gym, his stomach would knot up at the thought of facing an opponent. He'd find excuses. He wasn't ready. He needed more practice on the bag. His technique wasn't perfect yet. But one day, Lucas made a decision that would transform his life. Instead of avoiding his fear, he would lean into it. He committed to sparring 3 times a week, no matter how scared he felt. The first few sessions were brutal. He got hit. He felt overwhelmed. He wanted to quit. But each time he stepped back into the ring, something interesting happened. His fear began to lose its power. Within 6 months, Lucas wasn't just participating in sparring sessions. He was dominating them. His transformation had nothing to do with natural talent or some magical breakthrough. It came from his willingness to embrace discomfort, to choose growth over safety, day after day. Your comfort zone isn't a safe haven. It's a prison built of your own fears and excuses. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce its walls. But here's the truth that will set you free. Those walls are imaginary. They exist only because you allow them to. Think about the goals you've been putting off, the dreams you've labeled as someday. Behind each delay is a choice for comfort over growth. That promotion you want? It requires the discomfort of taking on more responsibility. That business you dream of starting? It demands the discomfort of uncertainty. That relationship you want to improve? It needs the discomfort of vulnerable conversations. Comfort is the enemy of everything you want. If you continue to choose the easy path, you will never become strong. Chapter 3. Fear in Disguise. Fear doesn't always feel like fear. Sometimes it looks like logic. Sometimes it sounds like a perfectly reasonable excuse. I need more time to prepare. I just don't have the right resources yet. What if I fail? These aren't rational thoughts. They're fear in disguise. And the longer you listen to them, the more they will control your life. Your mind is masterful at creating sophisticated justifications for inaction. It wraps fear in the language of reason, making cowardice sound like wisdom. You tell yourself you're being strategic when you're really just afraid. You call it planning when it's really just procrastination. These mental gymnastics might make you feel better, but they're keeping you trapped. Think about the last time you had a great idea or opportunity. Within seconds, your mind probably generated a dozen reasons why you shouldn't pursue it. Each excuse seemed logical, responsible, smart. But strip away the fancy language, and what remains? Pure, simple fear. Fear is not the screaming terror we imagine. It's much more subtle and much more dangerous. It's hesitation, procrastination, self-doubt. It's the invisible force that stops you from starting, from speaking up, from taking risks. But fear is not reality. It's a prediction, one that is often wrong. Consider Oprah Winfrey's journey. Early in her career, she was fired from her position as co-anchor of WJZ-TV's 6 o'clock news in Baltimore. The station managers told her she was unfit for television news and too emotionally invested in her stories. This was a moment where fear could have taken control. All the logical reasons to quit were there. She had failed publicly. Industry professionals had deemed her unsuitable. The smart choice would have been to find a different career path. But Oprah recognized these thoughts for what they were, fear masquerading as reason. Instead of letting this setback define her future, she used it as fuel. She didn't just overcome this obstacle. She went on to build a media empire worth billions becoming one of the most influential people in the world. The very qualities that got her fired, her emotional connection and authentic approach, became the foundation of her success. The only way to defeat fear is to act before it has a chance to paralyze you. Stop analyzing, stop negotiating, stop waiting. Move forward even when you feel unprepared. Because here's the truth. That voice in your head telling you to wait until you're ready is lying. You'll never feel completely ready. The people you admire, the ones who achieve great things, they weren't ready either. They just acted anyway. Ava, a talented artist in Portland, spent years perfecting her craft but never sharing it. She had every excuse imaginable. Her style wasn't developed enough. The market was too saturated. She needed better materials. Each reason sounded perfectly logical. She told herself she was being professional, preparing properly, waiting for the right moment. One morning, after finding yet another reason to delay showing her work, Ava finally recognized her logic for what it was: fear wearing a mask of reason. In that moment of clarity, she made a decision. No more waiting. She photographed her paintings, created a social media account, and shared her work with the world, all before her fear had time to craft new excuses. The response wasn't just positive, it was overwhelming. Galleries reached out. Commissions started flowing in. All those years of waiting, all those carefully constructed reasons for delay, had been built on nothing but fear. Her talent hadn't changed. Her work hadn't suddenly improved. The only thing that changed was her willingness to act despite fear. Fear is not real. It is a story you tell yourself, and like any story, you can rewrite it. Your challenge: identify one fear that has been holding you back and take one bold action against it today, without overthinking, without hesitation, without waiting for the right time. The right time is now. Chapter 4: The War Within. Right now, there are two voices in your head. One is pushing you toward action, discipline, and growth. The other is whispering doubts, urging you to stay comfortable, to wait until tomorrow to take the easier path. This isn't just internal dialogue. It's a war. Every time you choose hesitation over action, every time you retreat from difficulty, you are losing. And until you take control, your mind will continue to work against you instead of for you. The battle raging inside your head isn't some metaphysical concept. It's a very real struggle that determines everything you do, or more importantly, everything you don't do. That voice telling you to stay in bed instead of hitting the gym. The one suggesting you check social media instead of working on your goals. That's not your friend. It's your enemy, disguised as your protector. Your mind is a battlefield where two forces are constantly at odds: your survival instinct and your higher potential. The first wants you to stay safe, to avoid discomfort, to keep things predictable. It's the ancient part of your brain that evolved to keep you alive in a world of physical threats. But in today's world, this same instinct often keeps you small, trapped, and unfulfilled. The second force, your higher potential, wants you to take risks, push boundaries, and grow into your full potential. It's the part of you that dreams big, that knows you're capable of more, that refuses to settle for mediocrity. Most people let their survival instinct win, mistaking its warnings as wisdom. But those who dominate in life, whether it's in sports, business, or personal growth, understand that discomfort is where real progress happens. Look at Serena Williams. Her journey to becoming one of the greatest athletes of all time wasn't just about physical training. It was about mental dominance. Early in her career, she faced not just external opponents, but internal ones. Doubt, pressure, the voice that said she wasn't good enough or that she should play it safe. During the 2015 U.S. Open semifinals, Williams was down in the third set against Heather Watson. The easy path, the one her survival instinct urged, would have been to play conservatively, to avoid risks. Instead, she chose aggression, going for powerful winners when most players would have played it safe. She didn't just win that match, she dominated it, showcasing how mental control translates into physical performance. But this wasn't natural talent. It was trained discipline. Williams spent countless hours working with mental performance coaches, developing techniques to control her thoughts under pressure. She didn't allow her mind to run wild with doubts or fears. She programmed it to serve her goals, not sabotage them. If you don't program your mind, it will be programmed for you, by fear, by doubt, by the voices of others. You must train yourself to recognize when your mind is working against you and override it with deliberate action. This means catching the excuses as they form and choosing action before your brain convinces you otherwise. Start by identifying your mind's favorite weapons against you. Does it use fatigue as an excuse? Does it amplify potential risks while minimizing potential rewards? Does it convince you that you're not ready, not qualified, not good enough? These aren't facts. They're programs running in your mental software, and like any software, they can be rewritten. The key is not to negotiate with these thoughts. Don't argue with them. Don't try to reason with them. The moment you engage in debate with your limiting beliefs, you've already lost. Instead, act immediately. Movement defeats doubt. Action silences fear. Jake, an aspiring writer in Seattle, spent years letting his mind convince him he wasn't ready to write his novel. "I need more life experience," he'd tell himself. "I should read more first. What if it's not good enough?" His mind had mastered the art of reasonable-sounding excuses. One day, after reading about the concept of mental override, Jake made a decision. Instead of waiting for inspiration or the right moment, he committed to writing 500 words every morning, no matter what his mind said. The first few weeks were brutal. His brain generated endless reasons to skip. He was tired. The ideas weren't flowing. He had other priorities. But Jake had learned the secret. Don't engage with the excuses. Don't analyze them. Don't even acknowledge them. Just write. Within 3 months, he had the first draft of his novel. The quality didn't matter yet. What mattered was that he had broken the pattern of mental sabotage. His mind no longer controlled his actions. He controlled his mind. This same principle applies to every area of your life. Your mind will always generate reasons to stay comfortable, to avoid risk, to maintain the status quo. It's not because you're weak or lazy. It's because your brain is doing what it evolved to do. Avoid potential threats and conserve energy. But you live in a different world now. The threats aren't physical predators. They're the consequences of inaction. The energy you're conserving isn't saving your life. It's preventing your growth. Every time you let your mind talk you out of action, you strengthen its control over you. You can either be the master of your mind or its prisoner. The choice is yours. Your challenge. The next time your brain gives you a reason to delay action, override it immediately. Take action before hesitation takes control. Chapter 5. The Death of Excuses. Excuses feel like logic. They make you feel smart, reasonable, even responsible. But in reality, every excuse you accept is just a justification for staying weak. I don't have time. I'm too tired. I'm not ready yet. The problem isn't that you lack time, energy, or readiness. It's that you lack commitment. If you want to become unstoppable, you must kill the voice of excuses before it kills your progress. Every excuse you make is a brick in the wall between you and your potential. That wall isn't built overnight. It's constructed slowly, one seemingly reasonable excuse at a time. Each time you tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," or "I'm not qualified enough yet," you're not just postponing action. You're strengthening the habit of inaction. Think about the last excuse you made. Really examine it. Was it truly impossible to take action, or did you simply choose the comfort of avoidance? Did circumstances really prevent you from moving forward, or did you just prefer the safety of staying still? The truth, if you're honest with yourself, is that most of your excuses are lies you tell yourself to avoid discomfort. Your brain is masterful at creating excuses because they serve an evolutionary purpose, conserving energy and avoiding potential risks. But in today's world, these mental shortcuts aren't protecting you. They're imprisoning you. Every time you accept an excuse, you're training your mind to look for the easy way out instead of the way forward. Excuses are a form of self-deception. They make you feel like you're making a rational decision when, in reality, you're just avoiding discomfort. And the more you entertain them, the stronger they become. It's like feeding a stray cat. The more you do it, the more it comes back, until eventually it's living on your porch, demanding to be fed. Think about Stephen Hawking's story. Here was a man who had every legitimate reason to make excuses. Diagnosed with ALS at 21, he was given just 2 years to live. His body gradually betrayed him, leaving him almost completely paralyzed. If anyone had the right to say "I can't" or "it's too hard," it was him. But Hawking refused to let physical limitations become mental ones. Even as his condition worsened, he continued his work in theoretical physics. When he could no longer write equations, he developed new ways to visualize them in his mind. When he lost his voice, he adapted to communicate through a speech-generating device. He didn't just survive, he revolutionized our understanding of the universe. What's remarkable about Hawking wasn't just his intellectual brilliance, it was his absolute refusal to accept excuses. When asked about his condition, he famously said, "My expectations were reduced to 0 when I was 21. Everything since then has been a bonus." He transformed what could have been a perfect excuse into fuel for extraordinary achievement. The difference between Hawking and most people isn't capability, it's commitment. While others use their circumstances as reasons to stop, he used his as reasons to push harder. If a man who could barely move could reshape our understanding of black holes and quantum mechanics, what's really stopping you from pursuing your goals? If you want to destroy excuses, you must become ruthless with yourself. The moment an excuse enters your mind, don't negotiate, just take action. Instead of saying, "I don't have time to work out," get down and do 10 push-ups. Instead of telling yourself, "I'm too tired to work on my project," sit down and write 1 sentence. The action doesn't have to be big, it just has to break the pattern of excuse-making. Your excuses have momentum. Every time you give in to one, you make it easier to give in to the next. But the reverse is also true. Every time you override an excuse with action, you strengthen your resistance to future excuses. It's like building an immune system against weakness. Focus on the transformation of Rachel, a college student who had convinced herself she was just not good at math. This wasn't just an observation. It was an excuse that shaped her entire academic identity. Every time she faced a difficult problem, her mind would automatically remind her, "This isn't for you. You're not a math person." Instead of accepting this narrative, Rachel made a simple but powerful decision. She committed to spending just 30 minutes each day practicing math problems, regardless of how she felt or how difficult it seemed. The first few weeks were brutal. Her mind generated endless excuses. "You're too tired. You don't understand this anyway. Why bother?" But Rachel had learned the key to killing excuses. Don't engage with them. Don't analyze them. Don't try to disprove them. Just act. Every day, no matter what her mind said, she sat down and did her 30 minutes. No negotiations, no exceptions. Within 3 months, something remarkable happened. Not only did her math skills improve, but her entire relationship with the subject changed. The excuse, "I'm not good at math" lost its power because she had proof that it was false. She hadn't become a mathematical genius. She had become something more valuable. Someone who acts despite excuses. You will always have an excuse if you look for one. There will always be a reason to wait, to hesitate, to stay comfortable. But if you train yourself to act despite them, you become unstoppable. The key is not to fight excuses. Fighting them gives them power. The key is to ignore them completely and take immediate action. Chapter 6. The Overthinking Trap. You've done it before. You had a great idea, an exciting goal, or a bold decision to make. But instead of acting, you thought about it. You analyzed it. You weighed every possible outcome. And in the end, you did nothing. Overthinking is the graveyard where dreams are buried. The longer you stay stuck in your head, the less likely you are to ever take action. Every minute spent overthinking is a minute stolen from actual progress. Your mind convinces you that you're being thorough, strategic, careful. But what you're really doing is hiding from action behind a wall of analysis. You tell yourself you're preparing, but you're actually procrastinating. The mind loves to complicate things. It will generate endless reasons why now isn't the right time, why you need more information, why you should wait until everything is perfect. But the truth is, clarity comes from action, not thought. You can spend years planning the perfect business, but you'll learn more from 1 month of actually running it than from a decade of planning. Think about how many opportunities you've lost to overthinking. How many ideas remained, just ideas because you got stuck in the planning phase. How many times have you watched others succeed with the very thing you were still thinking about starting? Richard Branson's story perfectly illustrates the power of action over analysis. When he started Virgin Airlines, he didn't spend years studying the aviation industry. He saw an opportunity when his flight to the Virgin Islands was canceled, and he immediately chartered a plane, sold tickets to his fellow stranded passengers, and turned a problem into his first step toward building an airline empire. What's remarkable about Branson's approach wasn't just his quick thinking, it was his willingness to act without perfect information. He has built multiple businesses across different industries, not by waiting for certainty, but by acting first and figuring things out along the way. When asked about his decision-making process, Branson famously said, "Screw it, let's do it." He knew that overthinking leads to paralysis, while action leads to momentum. The best way to beat overthinking is to build the habit of immediate action. Whenever you find yourself stuck in analysis mode, interrupt it with movement. Make the phone call, send the email, take the first step, no matter how small. Action creates clarity. It gives you real feedback instead of imagined scenarios. It moves you from the realm of theory into reality. Your brain will resist this. It will try to convince you that you need more time, more information, more preparation. But this is just fear disguised as rationality. The truth is, you rarely need more information. You need more courage to act on the information you already have. Consider Liam, a software developer who had dreamed of starting a YouTube channel teaching coding for years. He spent countless hours researching equipment, planning content, and studying other successful channels. He created spreadsheets analyzing optimal posting times, keyword strategies, and content themes. But after 2 years, he still hadn't posted a single video. One day, frustrated with his own paralysis, Liam made a radical decision. He would record and upload a video that same day, using just his phone camera and basic knowledge. No fancy editing, no perfect script, no elaborate setup, just pure action. The video wasn't perfect. The lighting could have been better, and he stumbled over his words a few times. But something remarkable happened. People responded positively. They appreciated his authenticity and clear explanation of coding concepts. More importantly, taking action broke his cycle of overthinking. From that day forward, Liam committed to action over analysis. Instead of spending weeks planning videos, he would come up with an idea and film it within 24 hours. His channel grew not because of perfect execution, but because he focused on consistent action instead of endless planning. The secret to beating overthinking isn't to eliminate thought entirely. It's to recognize when thinking becomes a substitute for action. When you find yourself spinning in circles of analysis, ask yourself, will more thinking actually improve my situation, or am I just avoiding action? Your challenge. The next time you catch yourself overthinking, take immediate action instead, no matter how small. The moment you act, you win. Chapter 7. The Motivation Lie. Motivation is a liar. One day it fills you with energy, and the next day it disappears, leaving you with nothing. You felt it before, fired up after watching an inspiring video, ready to take on the world. Until that fire dies the moment things get hard. If you rely on motivation, you will never be consistent. And if you are not consistent, you will never be great. Think about how many times you've started something with burning enthusiasm. A new workout routine, a business idea, a creative project. In those first few days, everything feels possible. You're unstoppable. But then reality sets in. The initial excitement fades. The work gets harder. And suddenly, that powerful motivation that seemed so reliable becomes a distant memory. This is where most people fail. They mistake motivation, a temporary emotional state, for the foundation of success. They believe they need to feel like it to take action. But here's the brutal truth. The people who dominate their fields aren't those who feel like it every day. It's those who show up no matter what. Motivation is an emotion, and like all emotions, it fluctuates. One day you'll be inspired, the next day you won't. If you depend on that feeling to take action, you'll fail every time. Discipline is different. It is the ability to do what must be done, regardless of how you feel. Look at Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL commander and leadership instructor. Every morning at 4:30 a.m., his alarm goes off, and he heads straight to his gym. Not because he's motivated. There are plenty of mornings when his bed feels more appealing than a brutal workout. He does it because he has built a system of discipline that operates independent of his feelings. Willink's approach isn't just about physical training. It's about understanding a fundamental truth. Waiting to feel motivated is a form of weakness. In his years leading SEAL teams, he observed that the operators who survived the harshest conditions weren't necessarily the most talented or the most motivated. They were the ones who had mastered discipline. When asked about his early morning routine, Willink doesn't talk about motivation or inspiration. He simply states, discipline equals freedom. This seemingly paradoxical statement captures a profound truth. By removing the option to negotiate with yourself, by making certain actions non-negotiable, you actually free yourself from the tyranny of motivation. The difference between motivation and discipline becomes most apparent when things get difficult. Motivation abandons you precisely when you need it most, during challenges, setbacks, and moments of doubt. Discipline, on the other hand, becomes stronger through adversity. It's the force that pushes you forward when every fiber of your being wants to quit. If you want to build discipline, you must stop negotiating with yourself. Remove the option to skip, to delay, to excuse. Whether it's going to the gym, working on your goals, or practicing a skill, treat it as non-negotiable. This means establishing clear, unbreakable rules for yourself. Don't say, I'll try to work out 3 times this week. Say, I work out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m., no exceptions. Don't tell yourself, I'll write when I feel inspired. Instead, commit to writing 500 words every morning before checking your phone. The moment you start negotiating, you've already lost. Observe Mia, a pianist who struggled with consistency in her practice routine. For years, she waited for inspiration to strike before sitting down at the piano. Some days she would practice for hours, caught up in the excitement of learning a new piece. Other days, most days, she wouldn't touch the instrument at all. Her breakthrough came when she realized that her sporadic practice schedule wasn't just inefficient, it was actively holding her back. She made a decision. 30 minutes of practice every day, no matter what. No exceptions for being tired, busy, or uninspired. The first few weeks were brutal. There were days when those 30 minutes felt like hours, when every note seemed forced and mechanical. But she stuck to her commitment. She stopped waiting for motivation and simply showed up day after day. After 3 months of this routine, something remarkable happened. Her skill level improved dramatically, not because she was practicing more. She actually spent less total time at the piano than during her motivated periods, but because she was practicing consistently. The daily discipline had created a foundation that no amount of sporadic motivation could match. More importantly, she noticed that her relationship with practice had fundamentally changed. She no longer needed to feel inspired to play. The act of showing up, regardless of her emotional state, had become as natural as breathing. Some days she still felt that spark of motivation, and those days were wonderful. But her progress no longer depended on them. This is the power of discipline over motivation. Motivation is like a fair-weather friend, present during the good times but unreliable when things get tough. Discipline is the silent warrior that carries you through both sunshine and storms. Think about your own life. How many goals have remained unachieved because you waited for motivation? How many skills have gone unmastered because you only practiced when you felt like it? How many opportunities have slipped away because you couldn't maintain consistency? The people who win in life are not the ones who feel motivated. They are the ones who have mastered discipline. They understand that greatness is built in the moments when you don't feel like showing up, but do it anyway. Your challenge: pick one habit you've been inconsistent with and commit to doing it every day for the next week, no matter how you feel. Chapter 8. Pain is your teacher. You've been lied to about pain. You were taught that pain is bad, something to avoid at all costs. But pain is not your enemy. It is your greatest tool for growth. Every single person who has achieved anything extraordinary has suffered for it. The question isn't how to avoid pain. It's how to use it to your advantage. Think about every meaningful achievement in your life. Did any of them come easily? That promotion you earned, the skills you mastered, the relationships you built, each required you to push through discomfort, to endure moments of doubt and difficulty. Yet somewhere along the way, you were taught to fear pain rather than embrace it. Society has conditioned you to seek comfort, to run from anything that hurts. But this instinct, while natural, is holding you back. Pain isn't just an unavoidable part of growth, it's a necessary catalyst for transformation. Every time you shy away from difficulty, you rob yourself of an opportunity to become stronger. Consider the basic biology of muscle growth. When you lift weights, you literally tear your muscle fibers. It's uncomfortable, sometimes even painful. But without that stress, without that controlled damage, your muscles would never grow stronger. This same principle applies to every aspect of life. Mental, emotional, and spiritual growth all require you to push through pain. Pain is the ultimate teacher because it demands your full attention. It strips away pretense and forces you to confront reality. When you're comfortable, it's easy to lie to yourself, to maintain illusions about your capabilities and limitations. Pain cuts through these delusions with brutal honesty. Look at Michael Jordan's journey. When he was cut from his high school basketball team as a sophomore, the pain was real. It wasn't just physical exhaustion from training. It was the deep, emotional sting of rejection, of being told he wasn't good enough. Most people would have used that pain as an excuse to quit. Jordan did the opposite. He turned that pain into fuel. Every morning at 6 a.m. before school started, he was in the gym practicing. Every afternoon, he was back again. The pain of being cut didn't break him. It focused him. He used that rejection as motivation to prove everyone wrong. The result? He didn't just make the team the next year. He became the greatest basketball player in history. Jordan's story illustrates a fundamental truth. Pain is neutral. It's not inherently good or bad. It's a tool, and its value depends entirely on how you use it. The pain of rejection, failure, or loss can either crush you or forge you into something stronger. The choice is yours. This isn't just about physical pain or athletic achievement. Every domain of excellence requires embracing discomfort. Writers face the pain of criticism and rejection. Entrepreneurs endure the stress of uncertainty and failure. Leaders carry the weight of difficult decisions and their consequences. What separates the exceptional from the average is not an absence of pain, but a different relationship with it. Navy SEALs have a saying, "Get comfortable being uncomfortable." During their infamous Hell Week, candidates endure sleep deprivation, hypothermia, and physical exhaustion beyond what most people can imagine. The purpose isn't just to test their limits. It's to teach them that pain is temporary, but the strength gained from enduring it is permanent. But you don't need to be a SEAL to apply this principle. Every day presents opportunities to build your pain tolerance, to strengthen your resilience through controlled exposure to discomfort. The key is to start seeing pain as information rather than injury. When you feel the burn during a workout, that's your body telling you it's adapting. When you feel anxious before a presentation, that's your mind preparing for growth. When you face rejection or criticism, that's life offering you a chance to build emotional resilience. Ethan, a struggling salesman, discovered this truth the hard way. Every rejection felt like a personal attack, each no a confirmation of his inadequacy. His sales numbers were plummeting, not because he lacked skill, but because his fear of rejection was paralyzing him. Then he made a radical decision. Instead of trying to avoid rejection, he would actively seek it out. He set a goal to collect 100 no's as quickly as possible. He started approaching the most intimidating prospects, taking on the hardest calls, volunteering for the most challenging presentations. Something unexpected happened. As he deliberately exposed himself to the pain of rejection, it began to lose its power over him. Each no became less personal, less devastating. He started seeing rejection not as a reflection of his worth, but as a normal part of the sales process. Within 3 months, Ethan's sales numbers had tripled, not because he had learned new techniques or memorized better scripts, but because he had transformed his relationship with pain. The very thing he had feared most became his competitive advantage. This is the paradox of pain. The more you try to avoid it, the more power it has over you. But when you learn to embrace it, to use it as a tool rather than treat it as an enemy, you become unstoppable. Your growth potential is directly proportional to your pain tolerance. This doesn't mean you should seek out unnecessary suffering or ignore legitimate warnings from your body or mind. It means developing the wisdom to distinguish between destructive pain and constructive pain, and the courage to embrace the latter. Start small. If you want to build mental toughness, begin with cold showers. If you want to develop emotional resilience, have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. If you want to grow professionally, volunteer for the projects that scare you most. Each time you consciously choose to face pain rather than avoid it, you build what psychologists call psychological flexibility, the ability to stay committed to your goals even when doing so is uncomfortable. This is the foundation of true mental toughness. Remember, Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. The pain of growth is temporary, but the pain of regret is permanent. Every time you run from necessary pain, you're choosing a greater pain down the road, the pain of unfulfilled potential. Your challenge: identify one area in your life where you've been avoiding pain. Then face it head-on today. Chapter 9. Building Mental Toughness. Mental toughness is the single greatest predictor of success. Not talent, not intelligence, not luck. The ability to keep going when things get hard, when most people quit, is what separates the weak from the unstoppable. And mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. Every time you face a challenge and push through it, you're laying another brick in the foundation of your mental fortress. Every time you continue when others would quit, you're strengthening the muscles of your mind. This isn't about natural ability or genetic gifts. It's about choice. Your choice. The choice to be stronger than your circumstances, your emotions, and your fears. Mental toughness is forged through adversity. It is the ability to endure pressure, failure, discomfort, and still move forward. The world's greatest warriors, athletes, and leaders all have one thing in common. They refuse to break. They've trained themselves to function at their highest level precisely when most people would crumble. Look at David Blaine, the endurance artist who has trained his mind to withstand extreme conditions, holding his breath for over 17 minutes, enduring weeks without food, and pushing his body past normal human limits. His secret isn't superhuman genetics or mystical powers. It's systematic mental conditioning. Before attempting any of his death-defying feats, Blaine spends months preparing his mind. He exposes himself to gradually increasing levels of stress, training his brain to remain calm in situations that would trigger panic in most people. For his breath-holding records, he didn't just practice holding his breath. He rewired his mind's response to oxygen deprivation. When most people feel the urge to breathe, their bodies panic. But Blaine trained himself to embrace that feeling, to stay relaxed even as his lungs screamed for air. He didn't just push through the discomfort. He learned to make peace with it. This is the essence of mental toughness. Not the absence of stress or fear, but the ability to function optimally despite them. To develop mental toughness, you must condition yourself to handle discomfort. This means actively seeking out challenges that push your limits, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally. The more you put yourself through controlled stress, the more resilient you become. This isn't about torturing yourself or taking unnecessary risks. It's about systematic exposure to difficulty. Start with small challenges. If you hate cold showers, take them anyway. If public speaking terrifies you, volunteer to present more often. If you're tired during a workout, do 5 more reps. Each time you choose discomfort over comfort, you're building mental calluses. The key is consistency. One cold shower won't make you mentally tough. One difficult presentation won't transform your resilience. It's the daily choice to do hard things that builds unshakable mental strength. Noah, a long-distance runner, discovered this truth through his training. He used to skip his runs whenever the weather was bad, always finding excuses about safety or potential illness. But he noticed something. His best competitors trained regardless of conditions. They weren't just physically tougher, they were mentally stronger. So Noah made a radical decision. Instead of avoiding bad weather, he would specifically choose to run when conditions were worst. Rain, wind, cold, these became his signals to lace up his shoes. The first few runs were miserable. He was cold, wet, and uncomfortable. But each time he finished a run in harsh conditions, something changed in his mind. Over time, the rain no longer bothered him. The wind became irrelevant. His mind had become stronger than his environment. More importantly, This mental toughness began to spread to other areas of his life. Work challenges that used to stress him out became manageable. Personal setbacks that would have derailed him became temporary obstacles to overcome. This is how mental toughness works. It's transferable. When you strengthen your mind in one area, you become stronger in all areas. The discipline of pushing through physical discomfort makes you better at handling emotional challenges. The resilience built through professional setbacks helps you navigate personal difficulties. The difference between those who quit and those who win isn't talent, it's toughness. It's the ability to keep moving forward when everything inside you wants to stop. This isn't about being fearless or never feeling doubt. It's about acting despite fear, despite doubt, despite discomfort. Your challenge: do something today that forces you to endure discomfort. Strengthen your mind by testing its limits. Chapter 10. The Power of Brutal Self-Honesty. Lies are comfortable. They protect your ego, shield you from reality, and keep you in a bubble where nothing is ever your fault. But lies also keep you weak. Every time you make an excuse, blame others, or refuse to acknowledge your shortcomings, you're choosing comfort over growth. The most powerful thing you can do is be brutally, unapologetically honest with yourself about your flaws, your mistakes, and the ways you've been holding yourself back. If you refuse to face the truth, you will never grow. Think about the last time you failed at something important. What story did you tell yourself? That you didn't have enough time? That circumstances weren't right? That someone else got in your way? These comfortable lies might have made you feel better, but they also ensured you'd repeat the same failures. Self-deception is one of the biggest killers of potential. It's more dangerous than external obstacles because it operates invisibly, convincing you that you're doing your best when you're barely trying, that you're almost ready when you're hiding from opportunity, that you're just being realistic when you're really just afraid. The truth is, you are exactly where you deserve to be based on your actions, not your intentions, not your potential, your actions. Everything else is just a story you tell yourself to avoid the discomfort of responsibility. Consider Kobe Bryant, whose relentless pursuit of excellence was built on a foundation of brutal self-honesty. After games, while other players made excuses about bad calls or tough opponents, Kobe would meticulously analyze his performance, identifying every mistake, every weakness, every moment he could have done better. When he missed crucial shots in playoff games, he didn't blame fatigue or pressure. Instead, he would return to the gym immediately after the game, sometimes practicing those exact shots until sunrise. He understood that improvement begins with acknowledgement of weakness. This wasn't just about basketball. In one notable instance, Kobe recognized that his leadership style was pushing teammates away rather than inspiring them. Instead of defending his approach or blaming others for not matching his intensity, he took a hard look at himself and made conscious changes to his communication and mentoring style. His legendary Mamba mentality wasn't about being perfect. It was about being ruthlessly honest about imperfection and then working tirelessly to address it. This approach led him to not just 5 NBA championships, but success in business and creative pursuits after his basketball career. The difference between someone like Kobe and the average person isn't talent. It's their relationship with truth. Most people spend their lives running from reality, building elaborate networks of excuses and justifications to protect their ego. They blame their boss for not recognizing their value while doing mediocre work. They blame their metabolism for their poor health while making unhealthy choices. They blame the market for their financial struggles while refusing to learn new skills. To break free from this cycle of self-deception, you must strip away all excuses and face reality head-on. This starts with asking yourself hard questions and being willing to hear uncomfortable answers. Where are you actually falling short? Not where you think others have wronged you, but where have you failed to show up for yourself? What standards have you lowered in the name of comfort? What responsibilities have you avoided under the guise of not being ready? The answers will hurt. They're supposed to. Growth isn't comfortable, and truth isn't always pleasant. But this discomfort is the price of progress. Every moment you spend facing reality is a moment invested in your future success. Write down your honest answers. Put them on paper where you can't ignore them. Look at areas of your life where you're not getting the results you want, and force yourself to acknowledge your role in creating those outcomes. Then make a specific plan to change. Not vague intentions, but concrete actions you can take immediately. Oliver, a personal trainer in Chicago, spent months blaming the tough market for his struggling business. He told himself that potential clients weren't serious about fitness, that the economy was bad, that his gym's location was the problem. These excuses kept him comfortable, but also kept him broke. Finally, after nearly having to close his business, Oliver forced himself to confront the truth. He wasn't actively marketing his services, he was waiting for clients to find him. His workouts were generic rather than personalized. He wasn't following up with leads because rejection made him uncomfortable. His social media presence was inconsistent because he didn't have time. Yet he spent hours each day watching Netflix. The truth hurt, but it also showed him exactly what he needed to change. Oliver created a daily marketing schedule, redesigned his training programs, and committed to posting valuable content every day. He set specific follow-up protocols for leads and potential clients. Most importantly, he stopped making excuses when things didn't work, and instead asked himself what he could do better. Within 6 months, his client list had tripled. Not because the market changed, but because he finally faced the truth about his own efforts and made real changes based on that reality. This is the power of brutal self-honesty. It transforms vague problems into specific challenges you can address. It converts excuses into action items. It replaces the comfort of lies with the power of truth. But this isn't a one-time exercise. Self-deception is subtle and persistent. It will try to creep back in through sophisticated rationalizations and seemingly logical excuses. You must make honest self-assessment a daily practice. Start with your current situation. What lies have you been telling yourself? What excuses have become comfortable habits? Where have you been blaming others for outcomes that you could influence? Growth starts with truth. The sooner you stop lying to yourself, the sooner you can fix what's holding you back. Chapter 11. Mastering Your Emotional Battlefield. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield who panics under pressure. He lets fear take over, makes reckless decisions, and loses control. What happens? He loses. Life is no different. If you allow emotions to dictate your actions, you will always be a prisoner to your impulses. The strongest people in the world aren't emotionless. They've simply learned how to master their emotions instead of being ruled by them. Your emotions are like powerful waves. They can either drown you or propel you forward, depending on how well you learn to navigate them. Every time you let anger drive your decisions, every time anxiety stops you from taking action, every time frustration makes you quit, you're letting these waves crash over you instead of learning to ride them. Think about your last emotional reaction. Maybe you snapped at someone important to you. Maybe you abandoned a project in frustration. Maybe fear made you back down from an opportunity. In that moment, your emotions weren't protecting you. They were controlling you. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, faced challenges that would break most people. Leading an empire during times of plague, war, and betrayal, he had every reason to let emotions override his judgment. Instead, he developed an unshakable emotional discipline that made him one of history's most effective leaders. In his personal writings, later published as Meditations, he repeatedly emphasized the importance of emotional control. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When his closest allies betrayed him, he responded not with vengeful rage, but with calculated strategy. When facing invasion, he didn't let fear rush him into poor decisions, but maintained clarity of thought. This wasn't just philosophical theory, it was practical warfare strategy. Aurelius understood that emotional reactions rarely lead to optimal outcomes. By creating space between stimulus and response, he could choose actions based on wisdom rather than impulse. The lesson here isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about mastering them. Emotions are valuable signals, but terrible drivers. They can alert you to what matters, but they shouldn't determine your response. To develop this mastery, you must first understand that emotional control is a skill, not a trait. Just like a muscle, it strengthens with deliberate practice. Start by creating a pause between trigger and response. When you feel anger rising, when fear starts to grip you, when frustration builds, stop. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this emotion helping or hurting my objectives? What would a strategic response look like? This pause is your power moment. It's where you transform from a reactive victim of your emotions into a strategic master of your responses. Naomi, a high-performing executive at a tech startup, used to let her emotions run her leadership style. When projects fell behind schedule, she'd lash out at her team. When clients complained, she'd respond with defensive anger. Her emotional reactivity was destroying team morale and compromising her effectiveness as a leader. Everything changed when she learned about emotional discipline. She started practicing the pause. When she felt anger rising, she would stop, take 3 deep breaths, and ask herself, what does this situation need from me right now? Instead of reacting to her team's mistakes with fury, she began responding with clear, calm guidance. Rather than letting frustration drive her decisions, she started approaching challenges with strategic thinking. Within months, her team's performance improved dramatically. Not because she became emotionless, but because she learned to use her emotions as information rather than letting them dictate her actions. The key is consistency. Every emotional trigger is an opportunity to practice this skill. When someone cuts you off in traffic, pause before reacting. When a colleague criticizes your work, pause before defending. When fear tells you to back down from a challenge, pause before retreating. In these pauses, you'll find your power. You'll discover that emotions are suggestions, not commands. They're information, not instructions. Weak people are controlled by their emotions. Strong people control their emotions. The difference isn't in what they feel, it's in how they respond to those feelings. Your challenge. The next time you feel yourself reacting emotionally, pause. Take a breath. Choose your response instead of letting your emotions choose for you. Chapter 12. Turning rejection into rocket fuel. Most people fear rejection and failure like they fear death. They avoid risks, play it safe, and never put themselves in situations where they might lose. But here's the truth. Rejection and failure are necessary steps toward success. The people who achieve the most in life are the ones who failed the most. But instead of quitting, they use those failures as fuel. Every time you back away from an opportunity because you might fail, every time you stay silent because someone might say no, you're not protecting yourself, you're imprisoning yourself. That safety you feel? It's an illusion. In reality, avoiding failure is the biggest failure of all. Think about the last time rejection or failure stopped you in your tracks. Maybe it was a job interview that went nowhere. Maybe it was a business idea that flopped. Maybe it was a relationship that ended badly. In that moment, it felt like proof that you weren't good enough. But what if those failures weren't endings at all? What if they were actually the beginning of something greater? Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of success. The greatest achievements in history came from people who refused to let failure stop them. Look at Walt Disney, who was fired from the Kansas City Star newspaper for lacking creativity and original ideas. Imagine if he had believed that rejection. Imagine if he had accepted that assessment of his abilities and given up on his dreams. But Disney didn't just face one rejection. His first animation company, Laugh-O-Gram Studios, went bankrupt. He arrived in Hollywood with just $40 in his pocket and a failed business behind him. Even after creating Mickey Mouse, he was rejected by multiple banks when trying to finance what would become Disneyland. Each rejection, each failure, could have been the end of his story. Instead, these setbacks became the foundation of his empire. Every no strengthened his resolve. Every failure taught him valuable lessons about business, creativity, and perseverance. The man who was once told he lacked creativity went on to revolutionize animation, entertainment, and the entire concept of family leisure. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't talent. It's the willingness to keep going after failure. It's the ability to transform rejection from a stop sign into a stepping stone. This isn't just about Disney. History is filled with similar stories. James Dyson went through 5,126 failed prototypes before perfecting his revolutionary vacuum design. Stephen King's first novel was rejected 30 times before finding a publisher. Colonel Sanders was rejected 1,009 times before someone agreed to his restaurant franchise idea. The pattern is clear. Success isn't about avoiding failure. It's about persisting through it. Each rejection, each setback, each moment of failure is actually an opportunity to learn, to adjust, to grow stronger. But this requires a fundamental shift in how you view failure and rejection. Most people see them as evidence of their limitations. The strong see them as feedback for improvement. When you get rejected, don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I come back stronger?" This isn't just philosophical theory, it's practical strategy. Every time you face rejection or failure, you have two choices. Let it define you, or let it fuel you. The weak let failure convince them to quit. The strong use it as motivation to prove everyone wrong. Take Max, a young musician who spent years submitting his demos to record labels. Each rejection letter felt like a personal attack on his talent and dreams. But instead of letting these rejections defeat him, he started using them differently. He created a wall in his studio where he hung every rejection letter, not as a reminder of failure, but as fuel for his fire. With each rejection, Max analyzed the feedback he received. He worked on his songwriting, improved his production quality, and kept refining his unique sound. Instead of waiting for a label to choose him, he started building his own audience through social media and live performances. 2 years later, Max had built such a strong, independent following that those same labels started reaching out to him. But by then, he had learned something valuable. Success wasn't about getting someone else's approval. It was about believing in himself enough to keep going when everyone else said no. The key is to understand that rejection and failure are not endpoints. They're data points. They're information you can use to adjust your approach, refine your skills, and strengthen your resolve. Every no brings you closer to a yes if you're willing to learn from it. This mindset shift changes everything. Instead of avoiding situations where you might fail, you start seeking them out. Instead of being paralyzed by rejection, you start seeing it as proof that you're pushing your boundaries, that you're playing at a level where growth is possible. Think about it. If you're never failing, you're never trying anything hard enough to be worth doing. If you're never getting rejected, you're not aiming high enough. The most successful people in any field aren't the ones who failed the least. They're the ones who failed the most and kept going. This isn't about being reckless or ignoring feedback. It's about understanding that failure and rejection are teachers, not executioners. They show you where you need to improve, what you need to learn, and how you need to adapt. When you embrace this perspective, something remarkable happens. The fear of failure starts to lose its grip on you. Rejection becomes less personal and more practical. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a student of experience. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. Like any skill, it requires practice. Start small. Put yourself in situations where rejection is possible, but not devastating. Apply for jobs that feel out of reach. Share your ideas even when they're not perfect. Ask for what you want even when you're not sure you'll get it. Each time you face rejection or failure, resist the urge to retreat. Instead, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this to become stronger? What would happen if I tried again, but differently? Remember, the people who achieve the most aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who never let failure stop them. They're the ones who understand that rejection isn't a wall, it's a detour. Failure isn't an ending, it's a beginning. Think about a failure or rejection that made you feel like giving up. Instead of dwelling on it, take one action today to move forward in spite of it. Let that rejection become your rocket fuel. Chapter 13. The Death of Hesitation. Hesitation is where dreams go to die. Every time you hesitate, every time you wait, analyze, or second-guess, you give fear a chance to win. Think about the moments in your life when you had an idea, an opportunity, or a gut instinct to act, but you didn't. And just like that, the moment passed. Those missed opportunities aren't just memories. They're evidence of a pattern that's keeping you from everything you want. The people who succeed in life don't hesitate, they act. The longer you wait, the less likely you are to ever do anything at all. This isn't about being reckless. It's about understanding that most opportunities have an expiration date. When you hesitate, you're not being careful, you're being cowardly. Hesitation is not caution. It is not strategy. It is paralysis. The brain is designed to protect you from risk, but in the modern world, most risks aren't life-threatening. They are just uncomfortable. Your mind treats every uncertainty like a survival threat, triggering the same fear response whether you're facing a predator or just considering starting a business. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who stay stuck is their ability to override this hesitation. Look at Amelia Earhart. When she decided to become the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, she faced overwhelming odds. The technology was primitive, the risks were real, and many experienced pilots had died attempting similar feats. But Earhart understood something crucial. There would never be a perfect moment. If she had waited for ideal conditions, perfect weather, flawless equipment, complete certainty, she would have never left the ground. Instead, she committed, took action, and made history. Her success wasn't just about flying skill. It was about her ability to act decisively when others would have hesitated. She knew that the biggest risk wasn't in taking action, but in waiting too long and letting the opportunity slip away. The science behind hesitation is clear. Every time you delay action, you strengthen the neural pathways associated with avoidance. Your brain learns that hesitation is the correct response to uncertainty. Over time, this creates a habit of inaction that becomes increasingly difficult to break. If you want to kill hesitation, you must develop a bias for action. The moment you think of doing something, whether it's starting a project, speaking up, or making a decision, act before your mind talks you out of it. This doesn't mean being impulsive. It means recognizing that action itself is often the best form of planning. Think about it. How many times have you spent hours planning something, only to never start? How often have you convinced yourself that you needed more information, more preparation, more certainty, when deep down, you knew you were just avoiding the discomfort of action? Daniel, a developer, spent 2 years planning to start his own business. He had spreadsheets, market research, and elaborate business plans. But he never launched. Why? Because each day of planning was another day of avoiding real action. Finally, he made a radical decision. He would give himself just 24 hours to launch a basic website offering his services. The website wasn't perfect. The copy had typos. The design was basic. But something remarkable happened. He got his first client within a week. That imperfect action led to real feedback, real experience, and real growth. Within 6 months, he had enough clients to quit his day job. The key wasn't that he had a great plan. It was that he finally stopped planning and started doing. The lesson is clear. Action beats analysis every time. While others are still thinking about it, planning it, or waiting for the perfect moment, the successful are already in motion, learning from real experience rather than theoretical possibilities. This isn't about being reckless. It's about understanding that most decisions are reversible, most mistakes are fixable, and most opportunities won't wait while you gather more information. The cost of hesitation is usually far greater than the cost of imperfect action. Hesitation is a slow death. The only way to win is to move before your brain convinces you otherwise. Your challenge: pick one thing you've been hesitating on and take action immediately. No second guessing, no delaying. Just act. Chapter 14. The Warrior's Mindset. There are 2 types of people in this world: those who see life as a battlefield and those who see it as a playground. The first group thrives in adversity, refuses to quit, and treats every challenge as a fight to be won. The second group crumbles when things get tough, expecting life to be fair. Right now, you need to ask yourself, which one are you? Every morning when you wake up, you make a choice. Will you face the day as a warrior, ready to conquer whatever stands in your way? Or will you approach it like everyone else, hoping things will be easy, complaining when they're not, and ultimately surrendering to mediocrity? The warrior's mindset isn't just about fighting, it's about absolute ownership of your life. It's about treating every challenge, every setback, and every obstacle as a battle that must be won. Warriors don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't make excuses. They don't expect the world to hand them anything. They prepare, they train, and they attack their goals with relentless determination. This isn't about pretending to be tough. It's about developing the mental fortitude to face whatever life throws at you. The warrior doesn't hope for an easy life. They train for a hard one. They understand that strength isn't about avoiding difficulty. It's about being ready when difficulty arrives. Miyamoto Musashi, perhaps history's greatest samurai, lived this truth to its fullest extent. He fought his first duel at age 13 and remained undefeated throughout his life, facing over 60 life-or-death battles. But what made Musashi extraordinary wasn't just his fighting skill, it was his approach to life itself. He treated every aspect of his existence as training for battle. When he slept fully alert. When he ate with complete awareness. Every moment was an opportunity to sharpen his mind, strengthen his spirit, and eliminate weakness. He didn't compartmentalize his warrior mindset. He lived it in everything he did. One of his most famous principles was, "Do nothing which is of no use." Think about that. How much time do you waste on things that don't serve your growth? How often do you engage in activities that make you weaker instead of stronger? The warrior eliminates everything that doesn't contribute to their development. This mindset isn't just for ancient samurai. It's for anyone who wants to dominate in modern life. Look at the most successful people in any field. They approach their craft with the same intensity, discipline, and unwavering focus that Musashi brought to swordsmanship. They don't wait for motivation. They don't need someone to push them. They show up every day, ready for war. The warrior mindset demands absolute responsibility. No excuses, no blame, no self-pity. If something isn't working in your life, you fix it. If you're not where you want to be, you train harder. If obstacles appear, you find a way through them, over them, or around them. This approach transforms how you handle every aspect of life. In business, you don't wait for opportunities, you create them. Every rejection, every setback, every failure becomes a battle scar that makes you stronger. In relationships, you face difficult conversations head-on instead of avoiding them. You take responsibility for your part in conflicts and address issues directly. In personal development, you push yourself beyond comfort daily. You embrace discomfort as training, knowing that each challenge builds your resilience. Elena, a single mother of two, embodied this transformation. Working 2 jobs while pursuing her degree, she initially saw herself as a victim of circumstances. Life was unfair, and her situation was impossible. But something changed when she adopted the warrior mindset. She stopped seeing her challenges as burdens and started viewing them as battles to be won. Each early morning became training for discipline. Every financial challenge became an opportunity to strategize. The long hours of study after putting her kids to bed became her proving ground. She created a strict routine: 4:30 a.m. workouts, meal prep for the week on Sundays, 2 hours of study every night after the kids slept. No excuses, no days off. When other students complained about workload, she remained silent and pushed harder. When coworkers called in sick, she showed up early. Within 2 years, she had completed her degree, secured a better-paying job, and transformed not just her circumstances, but her entire approach to life. The obstacles hadn't changed. She had. By treating life as a battlefield instead of a burden, she developed the strength to overcome anything in her path. This is the power of the warrior mindset. It's not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about being absolutely committed to your growth and success. Warriors understand that the greatest battles are fought in the mind, and they train accordingly. They don't wake up motivated every day. They wake up disciplined. They don't wait until they feel ready to take action. They act now, and let readiness catch up. They don't hope for fewer problems. They develop greater strength to handle whatever comes. Most importantly, warriors know that training never stops. Every day is an opportunity to strengthen your mind, sharpen your skills, and eliminate weakness. There is no arrival point where you can rest. There is only the constant pursuit of growth. The question isn't whether life will test you. It will. The question is whether you'll be ready when those tests come. Will you face them as a warrior, prepared and determined? Or will you face them as everyone else does, unprepared and hoping for an easy way out? Chapter 15. Becoming Unstoppable. Success isn't just about what you do. It's about who you become. If you still see yourself as weak, undisciplined, or incapable, no amount of strategies will make a difference. The most powerful transformation happens when you stop trying to be strong and decide that you already are. If you want to be unstoppable, you must become someone who refuses to stop. Think about how you describe yourself in your own mind. Do you say, "I'm trying to get in shape," or "I am an athlete"? Do you tell yourself, "I want to be successful," or "I am successful"? These aren't just semantic differences. They're fundamental shifts in identity that determine every action you take. Your identity is not something that happens to you. It's something you choose. Every time you act, you're either reinforcing who you are or becoming who you want to be. Most people wait for external validation before they claim their identity. They wait to feel successful before calling themselves successful. They wait to achieve something before believing in themselves. But this approach has it backwards. Your identity dictates your actions. If you see yourself as someone who tries to be disciplined, you will struggle. But if you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, your actions will follow. The most successful people in the world don't just practice success, they embody it. Look at Muhammad Ali. Long before he was the greatest, he declared himself to be. When he said, "I am the greatest," people laughed. He hadn't won any major titles. He wasn't even ranked in the top 10. But Ali understood something profound about human psychology. Identity drives behavior. He didn't wait for the world to validate his greatness. He claimed it first, and then his actions aligned with that identity. Every morning run, every sparring session, every fight, he approached them as someone who was already the greatest. His bold declarations weren't just showmanship, they were identity statements that shaped his reality. When you watch footage of Ali training, you don't see someone trying to become great. You see someone who already knows they're great, pushing themselves to live up to that identity. That's the power of identity-based transformation. This isn't about positive thinking or empty affirmations. It's about making a fundamental decision about who you are, then aligning every action with that decision. When you truly believe you are disciplined, you don't need willpower to wake up early. That's just what disciplined people do. When you know you're unstoppable, you don't quit when things get hard, because that's not who you are. Think about how identity shapes behavior in every area of life. A person who identifies as a non-smoker doesn't need willpower to resist cigarettes. They simply don't smoke, because that's not who they are. A person who sees themselves as an entrepreneur doesn't wait for permission to start a business. They take action because that's what entrepreneurs do. The mistake most people make is waiting for proof before they claim their identity. They think they need to achieve something first, to earn the right to see themselves differently. But this creates a paradox. You won't take consistent action until you believe in your identity, but you won't believe in your identity until you see results. The solution? Choose your identity first. Decide right now who you are. Not who you want to be, not who you're trying to become. Who you are. Then let every action flow from that identity. If you decide you are disciplined, act disciplined right now. Not tomorrow, not when you feel motivated. Now. If you decide you're unstoppable, face your challenges head-on today. Don't wait for confidence. Don't wait for proof. Act from your new identity immediately. Jason, an aspiring writer, spent years trying to become a writer. He read books about writing, took courses, made plans, but he rarely actually wrote. Why? Because he didn't see himself as a real writer. He was waiting for permission, waiting for validation, waiting to feel ready. Everything changed the day he made a decision. He stopped saying, "I want to be a writer," and started saying, "I am a writer." It wasn't about positive thinking. It was about identity. Writers write. That's what they do. So he started writing every single day, not because he felt inspired, but because that's what writers do. He submitted his work to publications, not because he felt ready, but because writers share their work. He faced rejection after rejection, but kept submitting because that's what writers do. Within a year, he had published multiple pieces and was earning money from his writing. The skill had always been there. What changed was his identity. This same principle applies to every area of life. Want to be unstoppable? Stop trying to become unstoppable and decide that you are. Right now. Your past doesn't matter. Your current circumstances don't matter. What matters is the identity you choose in this moment and every action that follows. When you face a challenge, Ask yourself, what would an unstoppable person do? Then do that. When you feel like quitting, ask yourself, would someone unstoppable quit here? Then keep going. Let your new identity guide every decision. This isn't about pretending or faking it. It's about making a fundamental choice about who you are, then living in alignment with that choice. Every time you act in accordance with your chosen identity, you strengthen it. Every time you push through when others would quit, you prove to yourself that you are unstoppable. The world doesn't define you. You define yourself. Stop waiting for permission to become who you want to be. Stop waiting for proof that you're strong enough, disciplined enough, or capable enough. Choose your identity now and let your actions follow. Your challenge. Define the kind of person you want to be, then act like them right now, without hesitation. Conclusion. In the journey we've taken together through this audiobook, you've confronted the lies that kept you small. You've faced the excuses that held you back. You've learned to embrace discomfort, to kill hesitation, to forge mental toughness through deliberate action. But knowledge without implementation is worthless. Information without transformation is just entertainment. Your transformation isn't complete just because you've reached the end. In fact, this is where the real work begins. Everything you've learned about embracing pain, killing excuses, building mental toughness, these aren't just concepts to understand. They're weapons to wield in your daily battle against mediocrity. The real test isn't in hearing these words, it's in living them. It's in the moment when failure hits and you choose to get back up. It's in the early morning when your bed feels too comfortable and you choose to rise anyway. It's in the face of rejection when you choose to push forward instead of retreat. Your transformation is not a destination, it's a daily choice. Every single morning, you must decide who you are going to be. Will you be the person who makes excuses or the one who makes progress? Will you be the one who waits for motivation or the one who acts with discipline? Will you be the one who fears failure or the one who uses it as fuel? This isn't just about achieving goals or overcoming obstacles. It's about becoming someone who no longer recognizes limitations. Someone who sees challenges as opportunities for growth. Someone who has made strength their default state. Your transformation is ongoing. Every day presents new opportunities to reinforce who you've become or to slide back into who you were. The choice is yours. But now you know the truth. You are capable of far more than you ever imagined. You have the tools. You have the understanding. Most importantly, you have the choice. You are unstoppable. Not because this audiobook told you so, but because you've chosen to be. Now go prove it. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Right now. Because that's who you are now. Thank you for listening and for investing in yourself. I believe in you. Your potential is endless. Now, go out there and create the life you deserve.